Mark Brown grew up in Illinois, lived in Sandy for 18 years, lives in Sandy 18 years. This would be kind of an his extension from his Icebreakers.
Nice, intimate group. I should feel comfortable with this group. My parents and grandparents grew up in a world in rural Illinois where it seemed like everybody just stayed there. It wasn't as mobile and transitional a world as we live in today. There weren't a lot of great jobs in this small town in Illinois. So when many people in our family, the kids, got educated and moved on to a career, we ended up having to leave Illinois. So I, for example, moved all over the country, as you probably heard on my Icebreaker, and now settled in Salt Lake City for 18 years. My brother lives in Minneapolis, my sister lives in Austin, and I'm the oldest of 10 cousins. My grandparents had 3 boys, spaced 3 years apart, and our cousins would get together, our families would get together on holidays and Sundays and just became very close. So I grew up in a close-knit family, and now all the cousins are scattered across mostly the East Coast, but Indianapolis, Atlanta, Georgia, South Carolina, some are still in Illinois. We're all over. This brings, since we're close and it's hard to, let's say, remain in touch, this brings us a challenge which we've tried to address. About 25 years ago, we came up with a concept of a family newsletter. So being the Browns, we had to think of a name, and we called it the Brown Newsletter. Several things to notice about the experiences from 25 years of working on this Brown Newsletter. First of all, you need a good leader. My brother stepped up and took on the challenge of compiling the Brown Newsletter. Originally, we used hard paper. We would snail mail our maybe photos, but more back then, just text, and send it to him, and he'd compile it, put it in the Brown Newsletter, and then mail it back out to us. He invented the concept of the Eunice Guthrie Award. Eunice Guthrie was a great aunt who's now passed away, but she, in her older years, she didn't have much else to dwell on, so she really was excited, loved the concept of the Brown Noser, and was always the first to submit. So now the first submittal is always given the Eunice Guthrie Award. There's no prize to it, it's just an award. But my brother also adds cartoons to make it entertaining, adds jokes, and if you miss your Brown Noser, there's enough family that somebody else is going to fill in. So he gets it out basically on time and gives us reminders. He's the leader. It's interesting to ponder the metrics of who's doing the Brown Noser. Is it the husband or is it the wife? It's both. Is it the outlaws or the Browns themselves? My dad always writes his version, even though my mother writes very well, but he takes ownership of that. My Aunt Mary, she is the outlaw. We call them outlaws. She writes hers. So it just depends. Some of the grandkids are now chipping in. And we've defined the older generation, the 3 brothers that started this group, the Brown side of the family, as we've defined them as the olds, O-L-D-S. So that's what we call them. We're a close enough family, we've been able to kind of evolve some little joking or kidding. And last summer when I turned 60, I called out the whole family, who's all over, and I said, maybe we should have a meeting in Illinois, and as an excuse to have a reunion, being the oldest, I'd like to be inducted into the olds. So I threw that out as an idea. There was a lot of debate about it. My brother ended up using the power of the editor, and he kind of ended up ruling that maybe we can take the olds and call them now the Royals, and the new generation that's now up and coming can be the next generation of the olds. So I'm going to be an old. What a venerable honor. So, oh gosh. There's several types of writers that you notice. Myself, I write about soccer, or the latest tournament, or how my team's done, or my travels. My Aunt Mary, she drones on and on about how they went on a trip to South Carolina and Atlanta to see their kids and their grandkids, and they ate at a restaurant and they had the most delicious meal, and she describes it, and how she read this book and how good it was. And hers is always long. It's usually the last one everybody reads because it tends to be a little more boring. But there's all kinds of, some people do them short. I'm sure mine's very boring too. Some people seldom report, but often, or occasionally. And some of the grandchildren now are starting to dabble and take some ownership, but it just varies. The electronic world has really helped us because being able to email and attach good quality photos has really made the noser quicker and much more enjoyable and less costly. Now we're starting to encroach on retro photos. People are scanning old photos from our upgrades, so maybe a quiz comes out. Who's this lady in this picture with the pig on the farm or whatever? Do I use this?
No. You can if you want.
Okay. I don't know. Oh, it tells me what it means. So my dad has taken this to the next step. My dad puts out a Saturday report now for just a small group of the family. And it lets us know, he's 90 years old, it lets us know that he's alive and well and everything's going good and he's mentally sharp. And he just tells us kind of what they did during the week, which usually isn't much at that age, but it's good to know. My parents have an article, an old yellowy newspaper on the side of the refrigerator that they've had there for 20 years. And it describes how when people get old, it's good for them to, if it comes to the point where maybe they should stop driving, listen to your kids. And like I said, it's been there forever. My parents are both healthy, they're driving well, and I'm glad to say that they're not in need of correction at this point, but their friends are starting to fade away as goes with age. I'm just really glad to be able to stay in close touch with my family, and I'm really pleased with the fact that I have such a close family to be with. Thank you.